off. Welcome to UTMAPI 2023 Open Grand Finals. Congratulations on making it this far. Give yourselves a virtual round of applause for all of your hard work so far. Now, before we get on, we have a few things that we need to get out of the way. We need consent from both teams and all adjudicators that recording of this round is permissible. If you do not consent to recording, indicate it to Orcom or in the chat right now. Orcom can take note that Leader of Opposition does not consent to recording.
Would it be okay for LO if we still record it but cut the snippet of LO speech?
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Also, government did not tell us their speaker order, so if government could enter that into the chat real quick, that would be wonderful. Okay, everything is settled. Some more things to get out of the way before we move on. I have to make clear that any observers that are in the room refrain from unmuting yourself and refrain from using chat at all times. Chat is reserved for the debaters, if they want to offer POIs or anything of that sort. So observers, do not unmute yourselves, do not turn on your cameras, and do not use chat so you don't distract any of the debaters. Aside from that, all speeches will be 7 minutes and 15 seconds in length. Anything that any team says above 7 minutes and 15 seconds will not be taken into deliberation. I will indicate through the camera using my hands that your time is over. If you see me raising up my hands like this, it indicates that your time is over and I'm not taking note of anything you are saying at this point. You can indicate your POI preferences and gender pronoun preferences at the beginning of your speech. And I think that about covers all of that. Before we move on to the debate, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Moby. I'm going to be chairing this debate. I'm looking forward to a very wonderful debate from all of you. Good luck to all of you. My pronouns are he, him, but if you want to refer to the panel, please refer to the panel as a whole, and generally prefer if you would just use they, them, gender neutral pronouns throughout the entire debate so as to not create any issues of that sort. Moving on, can the panel please introduce themselves in the order on THBT? So that means Austin is first.
Hello guys, I'm Austin. No preferred gender or pronouns. Really looking forward to the debate.
Chengzu, you're next.
Oh, hi, I'm Chengzu. Pronounce he, him. Looking forward to the debate.
Dennis?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Gender pronouns she, her. All the best.
Hello, Farhan. No preferred gender pronouns. Good luck and all the best.
Hello, I'm Saleh. My pronouns are whatever you want them to be. Good luck.
Hello, my name is Kai Sing, and no preferred gender pronouns, and all the best to both teams for the round.
I thank the panel. Now, before we begin, I would also like the debaters to unmute themselves and introduce themselves. Ideally, throughout the entirety of the debate, the tournament requires that you keep your cameras on, unless you have connection issues, at which point it is excusable. So I would like to ask the debaters to turn their cameras on and introduce themselves, starting from side government.
Confirming whether or not I'm audible. Thanks. Hi everyone. I'm Risky. I'm acting as the Prime Minister for the Grand Finals round. It was a pleasure to be here in front of everyone. Yep. Preferred pronouns are he, him. POI preferred method. I guess just go through the chat in the room one chat. I'll be viewing that, and yeah. Best of luck for everyone, and thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm the DPM, John Sanderson, he, him pronouns. POIs, I'm not quite comfortable with the chat system in Discord, so I'll take one regardless, so don't worry about it.
Hi everyone, I'm Hazel Knight, the booth speaker. Please don't PM me to the chat or to the voice. I'm gonna give you chance of POI in the 5th minute. Let's have a good round.
Now, team opposition.
Hi, Michael will be speaking first. My connection is quite horrible, so I'm going to turn off my camera throughout the debate, except during my speech. My preferred gender pronouns is he, they. Good luck to everyone.
Hi, Chris. No preferred gender pronouns, POI preferences. I'll like talk about this again before my speech, but like I'll just take it via voice. Same with Haikal, I'll be turning off my camera during the debate because of connection issues, but I'll try to turn it on during the speech. Best of luck, everyone. Oh, I'll be doing reply as well, if I neglected to mention.
Hello, my name is Ryan, pronouns he, him, and I prefer my POIs verbally. Same issue with Chris, my internet's a bit spotty because we're currently in the same area, so I'll try to turn it on during my actual speech, but I don't think I can turn it on for the rest of the debate. Apologies in advance, and best of luck.
Thank you very much to both teams for your introductions. All right, now that everything is out of the way, we can begin the debate. I call this House to order on the motion this House believes that it is in the interest of the Christian right to decouple itself from American politics. I invite the Prime Minister from side government to begin their case here.
All right, reconfirming again whether or not I'm audible. Thanks for the confirmation. Yeah, I've done my introduction before, so I don't think I have to repeat it again. Starting my speech in 3, 2, and 1. 2 points are set up before I proceed to my substantives. A, what are the current actions of importing worship and like the political discourse process in the United States by Christian rights, right? 2 things. A, I think that we're all very much familiar with the phenomenon of Karens in the United States, right? Where you probably see them actively trying to combat someone, always having their fight or flight like literally on 24/7 on the streets because they think that everyone is going to violate them and everyone is against the religion. But number 2, I think that it also looks like Republican politicians inserting their ideologies of religion as a weapon in their advocacy of politics, right? I think that, for instance, you can see this of people politicians actively try to combat LGBTQ plus communities, senators or like even state governments trying to actively enable policies that are anti-LGBTQ plus or even like anti-feminist, etc., but also actively telling that people should go to hell just because they prefer something, right? I think that this in and of itself showcases a very highly like problematic behavior. Therefore, there is obviously an urge to detach yourself from American politics. But secondly, what does decoupling mean when we talk about decoupling on our side of the house, right? I think that it's very important that decoupling means that we're detaching the values of Christianity from the process of trying to fight for the policy, right? So it's not necessarily conservatism that's going to be detached, but the label of it becoming like Christian values are the ones that's not going to be necessarily pushed for, because obviously always using like in every discourse or political discourse that you see in the current status quo in the US, you necessarily see conservatism being linked with like Christianity, and therefore it's something that should be decoupled, and obviously within the interest of the followers of this religion, then most likely they obviously would want this to be decoupled. It's only that they're just not aware, right? Yeah, I think that those two setups indicates already like what the interest and what government is trying to push for. We're very proud to propose. I'm going to bring one main thing in my substantives. I'm going to talk about like why inherently decoupling yourself from American politics is necessarily within the interest that wants to be fulfilled by the Christian rights in the United States specifically, right? 3 layers on this one. Number 1, what is the parameter of justification and why is it likely? Understand that the justification should rely on whether or not this is inherently in line with the value of Christianity, and obviously this in and of itself is just is probably what the Christian right would have wanted, right, or would want it to be. What are their interests in the crazy to school? Obviously, two things. That A, I think that when you're a Christian right in the United States, you obviously want to push for your values to inherently be seen. This is exactly why they're very loud. This is exactly why they're actively combating someone on the streets, telling them that they should go to hell because they want to be listened, they want to be heard, they want their things to be seen, to be passed as policies. But number two, I think it's also very important that in general, when you're a Christian, you're literally when you're a Christian in the United States, you here and there, you hear here and there them talking about how, oh, you should become a Christian, you should join the religion, etc. I think that inherently, when you're a religious person coming from a certain religion will always push you to find for other people for you to insert to your religion, right? I think that inherently, therefore, they want mass followers in general, they want bigger followers, bigger people to enter their religion, etc. Second layer, what is the problem in the crazy to school and why are those parameters not fulfilled, right? I have three things on this one. Number one, I think that in the crazy status quo, it's very much present that there is a villainization of Christianity in current American politics, dynamics, and discourses, right? What are the actions that cause this to happen? Two things. A, I think that inherently, a lot of conservative Christian Americans are being extremely bigoted towards the general public. This is because I think that the process of internalization of currently social values between Christian right communities is just completely harsh to begin with, right? I think that you can see that the implication of these internalizations is literally the existence of stigmatization towards Christians such as Karens, for instance, or even you can see like very viral clips of people actively trying to, say that someone should go to hell, etc., etc. I feel like that even in the crazy to school, you can completely see someone actively try to hurt like LGBTQ plus youths in the streets necessarily because they think that this certain person should go to hell, right? But number two, I think that exactly the reason as to why this is also very likely to happen is due to the lack of self-control by these Karens that actually makes them go wild, right? I think that the main premise in the United States ground or the United States politics is the existence of freedom of speech and democracy to begin with, right? I think that because the inherent trait of the governmentation there and the political discourse there being full of freedom of speech and full of like human rights, etc., they're very much pretty able to validate their extreme actions that they're actually going through, right? So even if it comes to the expense of like trying to risk someone's lives or trying to actively try to go discriminate someone, I think that therefore they actually internalize that and they actually validate that, right? But secondly, right, in this matter, in the current status quo, youth and the general public do have the option to opt out of religion or beliefs that they have in the current status quo, especially in the United States where people are actively going to, other beliefs, they actually become atheists, agnostics, etc., right? As a result, several harms are likely, right, which harms necessarily the value of Christianity as what the Christian rights would have wanted. Two things on this one. A, now people do distance themselves from the religion because they do not want to be associated with the extreme implication of the religion in and of itself, right? Especially that's what people label them as, and that's how they represent themselves a lot of the times, right? So understand that when someone does something bigoted, obviously you will be very embarrassed to associate themselves with them. Exactly why the detachment happens. But secondly, I think that at the end of the day, what happens is that there is a very bad reputation for the religion, which is inherently unjustified, right? Understand that probably not a lot of people within the religion are necessarily that extreme to begin with. Not a lot of them are actually actively attacking people on the streets. However, what happens then is that the representation of it in the in social media, etc. No, thank you, is actually something that's pretty much apparent. It necessarily enables the ability for people to see that's a bad religion. So it's very unfortunate to those who are not necessarily that extreme to begin with. Third layer then, why are the picturizations that I've already mentioned previously inherently very, very bad? So three things, right? A, I think that inherently now people now misunderstand the values of Christianity to begin with. But number two, I think that the amount of followers of Christianity are inherently decreasing by a huge number because day by day, people are actually afraid of being stigmatized, of becoming Karens. People are actually afraid to actually be judged due to the religion that they actually believe. But thirdly, I think that even in terms of like political discussion, even like people cannot treat like Christian right very seriously due to the heavy stigmatization of it because like now people see that religion is no longer a valid argumentation when it comes to like talking about politics and passing policies, right? Thirdly, then, why is it justified under our side of the house and why do we enable this, right? Two things. A, I think that therefore what they do under our side of the house when we detach politics from Christian right is to prevent further villainization of the Christian value. This means that whatever these people actually do necessarily doesn't mean that it's associated towards like Christianity in general. But number two, I think that alternatives to execute values do exist in the Christian school. This means that you can still execute and do those values within the church. You can still have conversations with fellow Christians with productive religious discourse within the church. I think that that still exists in the Christian school. Very proud to propose.
I thank the Prime Minister and invite. I thank the Leader of Opposition, finally, and invite the Deputy Prime Minister. Here.
Am I audible?
You are audible.
Thank you. Yeah, just to re-clarify, it's been quite a long time. I'm Jones, he, him pronouns, POIs. Since we're in mid, yeah, chat. Right, sorry about that. When you go to church every Sunday, you sit down and pray to God and have a conversation with your God privately. The church welcomes followers, and our Father will give a preaching session and we pray as a community. A very beautiful experience. Now, imagine when you left church, you see people on the street claiming they are using God's word in pushing for their ideologies in politics. They scream at leftists that they are rejecting the words of God. You cannot feel content when you know this is not what your community represents, and it's not what people remember. We ought to protect these people propose. I'm going to talk about three things in speech. One, about Christian rights. Second, policies. And lastly, I'll bring extension about how we're better as Christian right to be heard in politics on our upside. First question then, Christian rights. Few observation. For observation number one, their claim is that they see Christianity and Christian right is different, so all harm that they talked about is useless. One, it's a very cool way to mitigate your harm, but wrong execution. We understand that these people are different, but exactly people assume you are the same actor. That's the whole problem of the debate, which is why every harm that Aristotle told you is true. So their problem identification is wrong. But second, let's be charitable. These two definitions are different, for example. Exactly, it is skewed on your side, and we want to decouple it. Exactly. Christian right is not just right. This the problem is when people think we are the same person who march while singing the preacher song but politics version. It is frustrating that we are constantly taught the same actor when you talk to the people and they find out you are a Christian right and immediately like give you certain prejudices. So there's never really a fruitful discourse if you are constantly in a negative light because of rightists using the name of God to push for their ideologies and policies. Note that these people who don't want LGBT rights, yeah, we concede to that. Like the difference is we are not extremists. People are assuming we're because of like some people practicing their Christianity outside of church, and I understand that this kind of Christian right is like people like for example it's righteous. You won't say that LGBT people should go to hell. You can reject the idea and say, "Oh, God can forgive you if you repent," and like you don't necessarily like talk about your views outside of church, for example. But the people marching on the street use huge violent acts for this. But out violated that agency voters in the Christian right.
POI.
So actually try to confuse. In chat, please, thank you. A very little response about policies. Their benefits rely on that their policies succeed. So if they want funding and policy, it is a speculation that they can succeed with their policy and like winning the election, right? Exactly this concept of extremists on the ground, it is not the best idea for them to win. So if they want to talk about policy changes, one, you will never be able to have enough support because you are not quite representative and like quite very representable. It is symmetric on both sides if it's very bigoted, like what do you guys want to talk about. So nobody will listen to you. Why would you win policies? It's very unresponsive. But second, even if they want to engage the political discourse, they should not engage in a Christian right view, right? But a logical reasoning without bringing God. So it's far more understandable on both sides of the house for like leftists and like laborers and etc. For them to understand what you wanted instead of you keep on bringing God, for example. So it's far easier for you to get a certain middle ground for you to understand instead of them seeing you as in like someone radical or just wanted to like listen to what God says or like really bad interpretation of what God is because leftists are also Christian in some part of them. Lastly, the support they are so loyal on up will still be symmetric. but worse on their side because some support is based on the policies that passed the bill. So if you're gonna prove any like why you can win with your bigot extremist acts, you're gonna have these followers at all. So you're not going to have like certain supporters at the end of the day once you keep using those kinds of radical acts and use the name of God and Christian rights, for example. Exactly, we want to differentiate these kinds of Christian rights and actual rightist people who just use the name of Christian, for example. So because Christian give a lot of followers because a lot of people are still quite religious on status quo. Before second observation, I'll take TPY. Second observation then.
Hi, hello. So, hi, you are the Christian, right? The same people you're villainizing are literally the stakeholder we had to protect in this debate. Please engage.
I don't know why we should protect people who are really, really extremists to the point where they are using our name to not like to use certain ideologies and push certain like their own policies, for example, right? Second thing, they talk about how we're already conservative and already bigoted. No, we do care about these people, right? People always correlate Christianity with purity, especially we prove how bad these kinds of person intertwined with and try to like destroy this kind of interpretation from God. Second, we still think that more potential followers is good for Christian right. Now, we do care people because people can out now. More people are opting out from radical views or religion. We're not saying Christianity is radical, but the media portrays the people marching on the street in the name of God. The TikTok video about Karens using God's name to limit LGBT's agency on the ground. Those narratives is what people buy inside school, say they don't feel safe when their identity is also Christians. This is very harmful for yourself to lose a community that once was proud of what your religion is. So let's weigh this. One, under prop. Sure, you can get heavily devoted followers who will do whatever you want and march on the street, but we question whether or not that's the value of Christianity or what religion is supposed to be. Under prop, we clarify this. This is not what we wanted. Sure, we are conservative in a certain way because we are Christian, right? Because we still like believe in like LGBT should be wrong and etc. But we don't necessarily condemn them to hell. We don't necessarily try to use physical attack and violence on them on the street to really like give them religious trauma, for example. Second, bad policies are correlated with Christianity now. So when you see Trump holding a Bible for his freaking promotion as president, which is very immoral by the way, just to gain followers, but you all are also correlating Trump as an avid follower of Christian right, who fucked over the US, so those march on the White House of like our beating in the wall of Mexico and banning immigrants. This just makes Christians look bad and the reputation is not the best. This is harmful because now those public figure politicians is seen as a symbol of Christian right, where they exploit Christianity as a way to gain followers. Under our side, we say no, you are not one of us. We don't follow what they preach and advocate. We say this is exactly what the interest of Christian right is. They want to talk about this is why it's important for religious this religion to be largely reserved for church, and it's very important for two things. One, it is something very personal to you and God, but the right is literally flexing God on the street and singing weird versions of prayers to everyone on the ground, for example. When this is already quite a very private and personal thing to you as a Christian, right? So I don't understand why they want to protect those people and trying to like spread this kind of influences on the street when it's very private. Second, it made Christianity have a bad name, right? This is harmful, especially when most religion is based on supporters and followers. I could say, oh, there's leftist Christian that still exists. No, they have different ideologies, so their churches are different. They're not really part of the communities. People who are in our communities will leave because they don't want to be seen as extremists. Very, very quick on my second question about policies. So why can we win on policy on our side? I didn't really get much about those on op side because it's either assertion or I didn't really hear it. I'm sorry. One, under our side, we can win on policies because we can guarantee the actual Christians to fight for it because now they are not ashamed of who they are as Christian, right? And they can still like fight for certain like policies that they deem as good. But second, we can also guarantee people that are liberal to fight for it. So it might seem crazy, but policies are like making like religious goal or putting more hard ideologies. We don't need to be liberal about it. So long as you are logical, we can gain followers, and as long as you can remain presentable, for example. Because exactly when we're trying to push away the mind of extremists on like those kinds of righteous trying to be on the street, they are more accountable and are willing to be more like logical in their ways instead of using the name of God, which is exactly why they can be more presentable on the street or like on this political discourse, which is why we can gain easier policies because the liberal can actually listen to our logical reasoning instead of just like propagating and try to give the narrative that we are radical, which is why all those reasons it's far easier for us to gain like certain policies, for example, once the media doesn't see us as bad. All in all, because we prove that Christian rights, it's important for you to be private to your God, and secondly, if we want policy, we can still do it from this logical reasoning and be presentable. We win this debate. Thank you very much.
I thank the Deputy Prime Minister and invite the Deputy Leader of Opposition here.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Give me some time to set up my timer. But in the meantime, I'll just do like all the things. POI via voice, won't be looking at chat. No preferred gender pronouns. call me whatever, I don't really care. Shout out to Haikal. I understand the last 10 minutes has been, the last like 20 minutes or so has been really hard for you. But like you've been carrying us for the entire debate. Now it's the other way around. Ryan for being absolutely stellar teammate for the entire tournament. Salute, lads. Yeah, I think that's it. And also MMU because like, you know, institutional pride or whatever. Okay. Is there anything that I neglected to say? I don't think so. Christianity in status quo has a very dominant narrative that is likely to be extremely conservative. That means not supporting gay rights. They're unlikely to go into these are people who are unlikely to support the Democrats or the left anyways, because obviously those things contradict the same values. The debate isn't about getting leftists or Democrats to be able to support us or to stop backlash, because those are always going to happen under both sides of the house. The burden then lies on both houses, is who can get the support of right-wing conservatives for the Christian right. Well, I think the largest contention for Gov and Op is what does the Christian right look like? Because DPM comes up and tells us that the Christian right is not going to be that extreme because reasons, right? I don't think they necessarily told us why is it such that political right people are likely to be more extreme than the Christian right, because for most of the cases, the individuals that are the most extreme do originate from the Christian right. And the Christian right is very well aware of this, right? Because of the fact that they constantly publicize like writings or like, you know, reports or like statements criticizing like, you know, things that go against their interests, right? The fact that like, you know, evangelists have hijacked American foreign policy for so long to align their interests with Israel because they want the Jews to have control of Israel, right? The reason why Catholics came out against Biden for supporting abortion, all of those things already exist. And I think government conveniently ignores the past 10 years of American politics. How influential the Christian right has been in solidifying like, you know, support and gate and hijacking like American institutions. I also want to note the fact that the motion specifically calls them the Christian right and not Christians, right? So you're not defending Christians as a whole. There is an obvious split between Christian left and the Christian right. And the Christian right is more close to like the the right wing individuals on the American politics spectrum as opposed to like the left wing. So it's unclear to me why certain like being disparaged necessarily is something that that is bad for them, because for the same reason why one person's freedom fighter is another person's terrorist, you are also likely to view yourself as being on the right side of history for fighting for whatever it is that the word of God is, right? To ensure that your fellow men do not go and burn in hell and protecting yourself. I think for most instances, there's also like Pascal's wager, right? Because you realize that if you don't do anything to stop like, you know, people from going against the word of God, you are likely to be complicit in their actions and therefore go to hell. So in most instances, the fundamentalist reading of religion causes them to be more extreme than normal right-wing people, because normal right-wing people change their views based on things that they do see, but the Christian right bases their views on things like scriptures and conservative interpretations of religion, which are fundamental and unchanging and unlikely to bend to things that change around in society. Okay, on to like arguments. I want to note that the Christian left is something that they have not really talked about, right? Because the Christian left is likely to exist on both sides of the house, right? Because religion is already set up in favor of the political process in terms of utilizing the machinery of religion, right? Like, you know, how Reverend Al Sharpton uses his sermons in order to fight for like to push people to take political action, right? How like a lot of politicians also invoke like, you know, religious prayer in order to like gain like support amongst their supporters. So I want to note that both sides of the house, both Democrats and Republicans, are likely to use religion in the form of the political process. So what does this mean then, right? Because in most instances, like the leftists also use it because Christianity was used in abolitionist narratives. When you look at but the problem is that when you look at other things like abortion, they don't really fit with the democratic platform, and therefore it more closely aligns with right-wing, like with what right-wing politicians want. So even if government wants to claim that this causes some degree of escalation within the Christian faith. This is not true, right? Because most often, the most powerful individuals who have hijacked like Christian institutes in America are the right-wing individuals. The reason why they came out against Biden, the reason why they are likely to, vote in the interest of like Israel or something along the lines of that. So this is why it's very important, because one, if it is true that the Christian right, like decouples themselves from American politics, this means that the Christian left has a monopoly over what Christianity is likely to look like and what they are going to want, right? This means your interests are no longer represented and are likely to be usurped by the Christian left. But also, it's important to note that current trends already show that conservatives have strong controls over all of the Christian institutions, but how they got swing voters to come out because of the fact that people who are religious are the most consistent voters because they want to take action in order to manifest change, right? So because of this, if it is true that you don't decouple from the political right, it means that you are more likely to be able to take over the conservative, what the Christian left is likely to want, and that is likely to be good because then you are able to have like a say over what Christian as members of the Christian faith you want. Also, on why the machinery of the state is extremely important to the Christian right, I want to note that the Christian right cares heavily about enforcing restrictions on what you can do. And I think Haikal has already told you, right, about bans on abortion, bans on LGBTQ material, bans on texts which are critical to Christianity, right? I think this also deals with like LPM's claim that this is necessarily bad because then people will criticize you. Hello, what most states do is that they just ban you from criticizing people who are feel strongly about their faith, and therefore the problem just doesn't exist anymore, right? Secondly, on proselytization, because now the institutions of the state can also be used to perpetuate the religion using state laws, right? Like compulsory Bible studies or the distribution of materials relating to Christianity. Obviously, this is good because it perpetuates the view of conservative Christianity. The problem of the criticism from the side of government is minimized because now a lot of people are subject to religious education, and religious education has a tendency to be all-encompassing about all different aspects of your life, right? So you're likely to view every single action based on the views of the principles of religious, of Christianity. This means that you're more likely to get people to sympathize with what you want to do, and therefore it's more likely for you to get converts or individuals who sympathize with what you are likely to do. Worst case scenario is that this means that you're likely to have more understanding, and this engages with government's metric, because government's metric is that you get criticism, you get backlash. All of those are things which are bad. But I want to note that this becomes less bad the point of which individuals do realize that you are likely to be do sympathize with your worldview or understand why is it that you think this way, right? Okay. I want to note that this is also very important to the Christian right itself, because individual members of the Christian right are likely to view all of these actions as things which are in and of itself good. Because one, I already told you why they are likely to believe in extremely right causes, but also that these are individuals who don't necessarily view the entirety of Christianity and only prioritize what they want as individuals, because they are the ones who are going to go to hell if they do not enact God's will. With that, I've never been prouder to oppose.
I thank the Deputy Leader of Opposition and invite the government whip. Here.
Test. Audible?
Yes, you are.
In case you forgot, I'm Hezron the whip. Didn't pronounce him. Yep. Huge shout out to Rizky, by the way. He's writing his reply speech, and my other teammate, I don't know, is in the toilet. I don't know, but yep, shout out to Rizky. Yep. Gonna talk about religion, and I'm a Christian, by the way, so probably some things are very personal to my own subjective view. So yep, doesn't mean to offend anyone at all. Yep, shout out to John 30 here. So yep, starting in 3, 2, 1. I know DLO, the Muslim doesn't state the Christians, but the Muslim also doesn't state the right.
That's why you need to fucking concede that as a Christian right, the value in Christianity and conservatism intersect, which I will explain in my first class why is it so. Pay attention, panels. Because if I could prove to you why our context of interest is the one that is right, then we totally win this debate. In so far, the most it is in the interest, meaning that whatever we say then fulfills the burden of interest, and whatever they say only falsifies the burden, simply because they're talking about the felt interest in this debate within the Christian right. We're gonna talk about two things. One, what is the interest of Christian right? But secondly, why decoupling is going to be good. But lastly, maybe like third thing about how policy making will be better under ourselves without engaging to the whole biggest case. Firstly, what is the interest of Christian right? The first thing I want to note is that ill framing is fucking unfair to assume that just because you're Christian right, then all interests are perfectly similar with the American conservative or the Republicans. If that is the case, this won't even be a religion debate. It will just be the right supporting the Republican agenda, not the Christian right. But secondly, it means that both things have to concede that the Christian right preserves things heavily different with the blatant right wing, which is why people could even notice that the worship of God is currently importing a study in the context side, which means you can dismiss my PM's context simply that the interest is to secretly defaulting God, to express your love and belief to Him, as what in the context side, by the way. That's why you could be right wing in the first place. That's why you could be like Christian right in the first place. The reason as to why people could be Christian left was because they're just progressive. They believe humans deserve to love one another outside of their gender, for example. But why people could be Christian right was out of their deep belief on the Bible. When you read Genesis 1:28, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it, right? That's why probably they're not really in the favor of homosexuality, because they think that inherently humans have to go with the opposite gender to reproduce. That women have the duty to give birth, right? But it also does heavily intertwine with other verses from the Bible that they believe in, i.e. Romans 12:10, be devoted to one another in love, honor one another above yourself, for example, right? That teaches humans, that teaches Christians to love one another. Meaning that you want to do the difference with you and the Eastern conservative is you don't want to make the minorities suffer. Even when you're Christian, right, you may go against them in your value, but you still want to love them. You still want to let them get a decent life as long as they're fellow Christians, because they're your family in the eyes of Jesus. You're a fellowship of His shepherd. Meaning that please be careful, panels, that the interest of Christian right, they will recontextualize to you, still stands until the end of this debate. Secondly, why decoupling is going to be good. One huge impact that was being really dismissed by opposition is about how we lessen the bad stigma toward Christianity. Currently, notice that when we involve ourselves in the politics agenda, we're being linked heavily with the American politics. i.e., anything that's being decided is being linked to our value. i.e., the push from conservatives within pro-life to go against the legalization of abortion is being taken so personal as something that happened of the Christians' push and interest. It's because of Christians just bigoted and we go against them wholeheartedly, right? Secondly, the discourse that's being made out of the process of policymaking is also being highly opposed towards art, right? That is all because of the canons that keeps talking about about how bad pro choice is whatsoever, right? And inherently that when we don't do this, when we decouple ourselves from the politics, when we break the stigma, then we ensure our value to God to preserve His name perfectly. Currently, God is being seen as extremely bigoted in their side because you're just being so extreme on your involvement in politics. We want to tell people that He does love His congregation, the humans. Read the context side. Whether you're Christian right or left, or blatantly just Christian, your ultimate value is still to worship Him. Even today, we win on the interest of worshiping God. Secondly, we ensure our value to one another. Because as Christian right, sure, we're not really in love with the idea of homosexuality, but still they are our fellow humans. We're being taught that we were the fellowship of Jesus, that we're the sheep and He's the shepherd. In opposition, you go against every protective policies, that you don't make any of the minorities live a peaceful life by illegalizing gay marriage whatsoever. Means that you go against God's order to protect the fellow humans. Two, you hurt others, which is highly not aligned with inherent intuition of the Christians, which is to love one another. But lastly, even when you don't buy all that, you're extremely conflicting with your fellow followers, which is the Christian left, because you have just contradictory interests at the end of the day. You just keep hurting them, right? But lastly, we said we also preserve our followers better under three metrics. One, for safety, for them to simply not be mocked in the street by the progressive or the followers of Democrats that you're fucking close-minded to go against pro-choice, that you follow a woman's right out of just Jesus' decision. Secondly, the idea of community. If you're just a right wing, sure, you don't care about the left wing. But as a right Christian, you care for others even when they're left Christian, exactly because you're being tough to serve one another, not to fight. Lastly, it isn't the barrier to opt in for people to simply feel isn't to opt in to our religion. In opposition, they're fucking demotivated to join our religion simply because of two things. One, most of them are scared of the bigoted stigma. Two, they're also scared within their identity, i.e. people who are marginalized, the LGBTQIA people, for example. Because in fact, we don't want to kill the LGBTQ people. It's written in the Bible that Jesus loves everyone, that Jesus forgives everyone. That is always open for forgiving, so we want those people to open in the first place, in opposition. They hinder this progress. Yep, you. 3, 2.
The Infoslide stated that the Christian right has been intertwined with the American conservatism, which means that on your side of the house, the Christian right already want conservatism on your side. How exactly are you able to get this?
Just because we want it like 10 years ago, it doesn't mean we want it today. Thirdly, policy making. Even when you want to talk about policy making, it will be worse in opposition. Because A, it's going to be extremely hard to pass anyway. A, I know that you please to Republicans. I'm not going to deny that. This is against the revenue of deal of speech. Why it's an automatic win to begin with? Even if opposition people to engage, they're fucking too late. Secondly, it's very uneasy to pass in the first place because A, the contrary of existence of Democrats, but two, the backlash from progressive parties all along the world via social media discourses that question the rational calculus of you supporting certain policies because you assume that God says so. They used to do A instead of B, right? But thirdly, simply of the existence of Christian left. A, they told you that left Christian will go along with our interests anyway. If that is the logic, then why do you bother to specifically involve yourself in politics at Christian right, right? Because if it's easy to get support, then on both sides, you don't have to go to politics. Policies will be voted anyway. Secondly, the existence of Christian left is going to go against you because, like, it's unclear how is the percentage of Christian right in comparison to Christian left, right? It's so far that they can ensure the will of policies making because of the contrary of interest of Christians to begin with. Their benefit is at worst delusional, but at best a gamble, meaning that those two metrics are not going to be winning, right? But lastly, how are we still going to be able to preserve policies? Simply because we please all the possible actors. I want to note that the policies that they mean is policies that are heavily right, i.e. policies on pro-life, that a lot of people agrees on, that it will manifest anyway, even with the involvement of Christians, right? So because it's hardly under the interest of the Republicans, it's unclear why this benefit of policy is asymmetric under both sides of the house. Secondly, I'm going to say that for those policies that are the Christians will still fall anyway, right? If this policy is that important for the livelihood of the whole people in world or like in the US itself. But thirdly, the right wing or the Democrats will see the place if it is also the policy that they want. But lastly, the data is simple. We also get to place the others who are also tired of us on the researching, talking about it's all for God of Jesus, because we told them logically why it should be done, proud to propose and stand for the Christian right.
I thank the government whip and invite the opposition whip here.
Hello. Wait. Sorry. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Alright, cool. Let me go get my phone for timer real quick. Oh. Alright, cool. So I feel like this has already been dead, but I want to give a few shout outs also. So shout out to Max's Data for sabotaging Haikal's speech. Shout out to Sunway Wi-Fi for not being that bad, and shout out to Google Meet for saving the finals. And finally, shout out to Haikal, Umar, Chris for uniting this group and the entire Sundet contingent, especially Raymond and Shirin for helping my ass out in debate every single day back in KFDI. And also shout out to BAC, especially Cyril, Mabel, and the rest of the BAC contingent that allowed me to come here. But yeah. Okay. Starting, pronounce he, him, pure eyes in the chat. Thank you very much. So, starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Reverend Calvin Robinson literally went up to the Oxford Union, and that has one of the most prominent debate clubs in the world, to debate and give a 12-minute speech on why every gay person like me will go to hell. If this doesn't show that the Christian right doesn't care about what people think, then I don't know what will. Panel, the problem with the debate today is that there is no debate. It's just an extreme mess. The problem on Gov is they just straight up do not understand who are we defending, which prevents them from engaging with the framing we wrote for you, because we all know that they're going to lose. Clashes. Why are the two main substantives we have for today's debate? Firstly, why are the interests of the Christian right? You are the Christian right, you are conservative, you support Trump, you on the political alignment chart lean towards the right. Because for some reason, when Haikal said, yo, past president says otherwise, their response was, but the past 10 years don't matter now, and gave 0 examples of this changing. Secondly, the world will have politics of either side. The question of whether or not you want to distance yourself or leverage the fact there are right-wing politicians within the movement that actively support your cause. But government tells us we want more. So
First clash. Government tells us we want more average people to enter, we want more buy-in and say that, yes, if we go and do politics, people will stigmatize us and see us as Karens. The Infoslide literally says these people are conservative for decades, which means they have been and will continue to be conservative, which means if their harm is for being conservative, it is symmetrical. So, 5 responses I have for, like 5 points to note from all. First, here's the problem with their claim, is that just as Haikal already mentioned that if you make people deterred from joining Christianity because it's stigmatized at the cost of losing your religious foothold, then they just wouldn't, because they want to consolidate power, because they know the moment they lose foothold or they don't obey God in Ephesians verse 69, they're going to hell. So then conceding that gay people are people or that women shouldn't be the head of the house means jack shit to them. Because according to Chris and whatever Pascal thing he said, whatever worldly incentive they have is superseded with the eternal damnation. They do not care if they're being called homophobes or called Karens, because they apparently care about the higher power and feel a sense of martyrdom, because to quote them, if the world is against being if the world is against the sanctity of a man and a wife being married, then I am against the world. That's a real quote from Reverend Calvin in the Oxford Union, by the way. Second, I also don't understand why joining politics suddenly stopped the right Christians from looking like Karens or stigmatized. Like, dude, the KKK existed before Trump got elected, bro. Christians are already stigmatized to look like crazy people who, like, believe in a spaghetti monster in the sky. Dude, are Christians not already seen as cuckoo? Jehovah's Witnesses literally go around and like treat and go scream at every gay person that will go to hell or are the next coming of Christ. We already see this with, especially like, oh wait. Oh, we already especially see them being made fun, especially by the left. And this is a problem that I have to solve because they don't tell us what their counterfactual is or what decoupling looks like. Like, right, are Christians not supposed to talk about politics or all? Isn't like gay, like possible gay legislation part of politics? Isn't Joe v. Reid also part of politics too? They will possibly line out. Hence why the left is super antagonistic towards these individuals also. Third, next is just dealing with the left. It's just not going to have like and on the left is not going to give two shits about the Christian right because of how diametrically opposed they are in terms of values. They already see us because they already see us as crazy people. Why not join the political party that doesn't see us and actually carries the same value we have? But even so, this is a bad thing because the left is likely going to corrupt the super conservative religious teachings we have and forces us to lose foothold and admit we're wrong, which is bad for our image as Christian right because it makes us look inconsistent and they're going to lose even more followers who are already radicalized within our group, who are already loyalists, because now we're deterring from that, our image looks bad and they're likely going to leave us because we're not as radical as they want us to be. Fine, let's buy into the Christianity and moderate argument that PM and DPM wants to assert to us. Here's the flip. We need to acknowledge Heikel's framing. No left Christian is going to just buy into us, so they're out of the debate. But if we do care about getting more Christians to join us or just being Christians in general, here is how we win. When we are seen as the very far-right conservative movement, we shift the Overton window, meaning the people on the ground who are already a general bipartisan Christian are going to look less stupid compared to the stuff we are pulling. Chris already explained to you why the Christian left isn't as strong and won't be able to deter against your power to begin with. But even if that's not the case, and they are strong, you are still putting a check on the Christian left when it comes to discourse. Which means, I literally said PR in the chat, which means you prevent your power from being taken away by still keeping on the discourse at hand. Chris's last minute of his speech on polarization and whatever Pascal principle was already good enough to sell you this point, which we already take. Lastly, and this is taking guff at their past, I don't see why further perpetuating on radicalization is seen as a bad thing. Because, dude, people are already very far right, regardless of whether or not they enter into politics. This was not a point of contention in this debate. This debate is about whether or not we should get political leaders to come and support us. Insofar they didn't prove their burdens, they lose out on the debate. But before I move on, I'll take a point.
Dude, I wonder, what really are the policies that you want so bad that is exclusive under the involvement in politics? If it's allegation of abortion that is heavily right-wing, it would exist regardless. Furthermore, we already taught you why you just get backlash from the solitary interest from the Christian left under your side of the house. To even get policy passes, please engage, stop being dismissive.
You already reached 15 seconds already, but here's how we get more power on our side. So dealing with legislation, here's the thing you misconstrued about Heikel's speech. Note that they never prove why you should trade off your only main way to get more power within politics. That's literally untrue, right? If a political leader wants the idea of abortion to be construed or just anti-LGBT, more often than not, it's because they're also religious. Like Trump is a devout Christian. What we get is we can actively control what policies are being placed or secure. It it even more because now we make it so politicians owe an active obligation and duty support us by radicalizing that into making it so they support us every day. This was the literal Haika's, this was literally Haika's argument. They tried to make it down by saying you'll never get any support. I don't know why this is true. Christianity in the US has been very prominent since forever. JFK, Bush, Reagan, and lastly Donald Trump. Currently, the wave of conservatism is increasing in America due to Biden's admins. It seems too weak. But note that we also told you that your chances of winning is better when you're utilizing the religion as your argument on our side of the house. But lastly, they tried to show why loyalists will support Republican wing politicians will be symmetrical, but that is symmetrical on both sides of the house. So not only did they consider that people won't be easily dissuaded from right-wing Christians joining politics, which contradicts their case, I think they misunderstood the point. The point was to show that Republicans are now going to be more loyal to us and not bend towards the left. But also just in general, when you as the Christian right explicitly mention that you support them, it deters the left from teaming up with them, with Republicans, or Republicans trying to have some negotiation with them, and makes it so Trump now has an obligation to listen to you or they will look bad. Because coupling the right-wing politician means you are actively lobbying these people to enter into power, or you getting religious leaders to run for office. That is the delta here. You are actively lobbying for him to be in power, to listen, makes it so the policies are enacted by them lining up with yours. But lastly, dealing with impacts. Not their best impacts is you just get better discourse and buy-in. Our impacts literally mean Bible studies in school being mandatory, which turns more people to become more Christian, which increases the overall scale of impact. With that, I've never been prouder to spin the wheel. Proud to oppose.
I thank the opposition whip and now invite the opposition reply.
Hi, audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
1 second. Okay. I think the biggest problem in this entire debate is regarding what is the comparative, right? This debate is about the interests of the conservative Christian. They say that you shouldn't stay conservative without proving why it will change. I think the problem is that I already told you specifically reasons why the conservative right is likely to think in a certain way. I think the only time that they pointed out how conservative Christians are likely to think comes out late in Gov Whip. So even if that were true, I want to note that you cannot credit that because it's material that's entered in Whip. But also, they also don't necessarily refute the reasons that we talked about, right? About how fundamentalist religions are unlikely to be able to change because of social circumstances, because of the fact that you are reading from scripts which are unable to change things as a whole. But okay, right? I think generally, whoever wins the characterization debate in this debate is one which is likely to win the entire debate, because unfortunately it's been a pretty parallel debate. Both sides, government has been hasn't exactly wanted to engage for our material. Okay, two clashes in this debate. One, which side gets more religious change? I want to note that government's response to why is it such that we're unlikely to get religious change is twofold. One is that they say, you're unlikely to get religious change because it's contingent on other factors. But we've proven to you why those factors are existing in my speech, right? I already told you why is it such that this is something that's incredibly possible because of the fact that how religion is likely to incentivize individuals to take political action, which is likely to lead to change in the first place, right? How church to vote runs are things that are extremely common both within the Christian left and the Christian right, right? And then, but after that, they then say that, if it is true that you are likely to achieve your political objectives anyway, then why do you have to align yourself with the political right? I want to note that it's very simple, right? Because even if it is true that the means of a church is one which is likely to incentivize people to go vote, you still need to tell them what to do, right? You still need to tell them that they're going to have to vote for this specific candidate in order to manifest those changes to the law, right? In most of those instances, that is something that's only exclusive to ops case, because only ops case points out what you need to do, all of those things which are already said within those churches, right? So in most instances, you are only able to win on the side of op. But okay, to continue on, right? Why is it such that religion is extremely, okay. Second clash, under which side is religion better? And I want to deal with their best case because this seems like the strongest argument that comes out of GAF. Let's engage with their best case. They say that religion will be better because you're unlikely to be divided against other Christians. I think even if I were to believe that, this is something that isn't changed under GAF. Because if it is true that there's a Christian left and there's a Christian right, there are already irreconcilable interests in what they want, right? One side is likely to want more inclusion, one side is more likely to want, like, more exclusion, protection of, like, white rights, right? Like enforcement of bans, as opposed to, like, just allowing individuals to do what they want. Obviously, these are completely separate interpretations of religion, and therefore your entire worldview is likely to be different. They are motivated by the same interests, but what they want to do is something that's fundamentally different. But also, even if it's true, like, to the point where a lot of individuals do already know that their lives in religion and their political actions are things that which are necessarily like they don't get cognitive dissonance simply because of the fact that they're friends with other fellow Christians, but also that they fundamentally disagree on what is correct within, like, what you need to do in order to be a good Christian. So in most instances, like, I don't necessarily see their harm. They also say that Christians are stigmatized. I already know that in my speech that the Christian right is unlikely to care because their worldview is that what they're doing is justified. But me and Haikal also said that the capture of state mechanisms and the politicization means that people who do support you will increase, and therefore you are less likely to be criticized, you are less likely to be judged, you are less likely to be called a Karen, and all of their harms are not likely to manifest anymore. With that, I've never been prouder to oppose.
Is it fine since we only have like 5 minutes left? Perfectly
I am slightly concerned about. It says the call has 8 minutes left. That should be enough for you to deliver your speech.
Yep, it should be enough. Right. Perfect.
Begin.
Yep. Please wait for my reply. Okay, udah. All right. Okay, so here we go.
Yeah. Wait, let me check on my documents. Great. Yeah, it's a very fun debate so far. So, yeah, thank you, Op, for making it happen as well. I also want to shout out my teammates for the very productive case building we had and the very fun round we actually had. Great, starting my reply to the debate in 3, 2, and 1. 4 beautiful clarifications for government. Number 1, it's not that we didn't pay attention to the last 10 years of US politics, because I truly want to point this out, right? Biden won against Trump despite him winning against Clinton in 2016. This showcases the deteriorating reputation that Christian right in the US actually has. This is why government has been pushing from the very first start of this debate that you should be more diplomatic instead of telling people that you should go to fucking hell, right? This is literally not engaged towards their side of the house, confusing as to why they're suddenly demanding for it in reply. We already told you as to why it's not likely. Secondly, the reason as to why we push for logical rationality is because the fact that this showcases the significant demand of it, right? The fact that we told you that it's no longer believable to the rising youth, which is literally the rising generation that's upcoming. We've already told you this since PM, literally dismissed, right? It's very weird as to why they continuously say that the debate is parallel or like it's not engaging. Literally, I told you I was there, probably because of the time constraint, but like whatever the hell. But thirdly, dear Up, 720 minutes times 3 coming from government side of the house talking about why the current status quo is problematic shouldn't exist to begin with if it's true that the Christian right still seeks stability in the process of campaigning and gaining voter base. For fucking once, please be charitable, right? It's literally failing. We already told you as to the 730 minutes that we told you as to why it's currently failing, why people are not buying it, and literally as to why the politics are currently demanding for something else. Literally, we became charitable. They didn't literally engage, right? But fourthly, I don't fucking understand why we have to debate about definitions of Christian right when it's fucking clear that rightists and Christian right are starting to be segmented, right? The way that we told you that these Christian rights are specifically stigmatized as Karens. I told you how this segmentation exists to begin with, further extended by my later speakers. The fact that they told you regarding how in the current status quo there is a rising actually new segmentation regarding how certain people actually want to love one another. It's always that they're only covered up by the extremists. We don't understand why this kind of segmentation was never credited to begin with, why they didn't notice it in the argumentation. Even if you think that this is a new matter, this is necessarily because there's no engagement from their first two speakers. This is why this is unlikely, right? Exactly, hilarious, mind-boggling. I have two questions I want to talk about. A, whether or not detachment fulfills the interest of Christian rights, but B, whether or not we can guarantee political support under our side of the house, right? Number one, let's talk about the interest of Christian rights. Three things. A, what did they tell you on their side of the house? Two things. A, that you should stay conservative regardless of whatever is happening, and B, that people will still see you as bigoted on both sides of the house, so might as well continue becoming bigoted. But what did we tell you on our side of the house? Two things as well. That A, the stigmatizations are so bad to the point where people are actively opposing you or your values, literally leaving religion, literally villainizing your values. I think that this is a very strong identity coming from governments out of the house. We even told you on later speakers, elaborated very well. Secondly, we told you that bigoted views are no longer viable in the current status quo because people ridicule you for bringing hell in a discussion that's literally talking about policies and whether or not it's working, right? The way is simple. Two things. A, we told you why maintaining the purity of religion is more likely on our side of the house. Other than maintaining the believability of Christianity, by the way, we told you how not acting hostile and being kind towards each other is something that's important regarding how even when you try to engage in a more fruitful discussion, why people will most likely listen to you, right? Never engage by their side of the house. But secondly, my question would be, why is it that the contribution of these communities are very important? Why is it that necessarily Christian rights, what do necessarily Christian rights bring to the table that necessarily shouldn't be left out by the whole identity of US rightists becoming rightists, right? Why is it that you want to protect it so bad? I think that this is an important missing logical link that they haven't explained to you on their side of the house. Therefore, there's no urgency literally on their case. I question that until the end of the debate. But second, Kash, whether or not we can guarantee political support, what did they tell you? That two things. That A, there's still a solid voter base of rightists, therefore it's still okay. But B, they said that people for some particular reason that suddenly there is still going to be support because like it's been there for many years, right? But what did we tell you under our side of the house, right? Two things. A, that religious rhetorics are no longer working. That B, using logical argumentations buys and more support. The way is very simple. The thing is, they dismissed this very funnily, right? Because they only said that, oh yeah, we will not change. This is literally making the debate parallel. You're supposed to engage as to why religious rhetorics are still buying in people, why it's still believable. We told you as to why it's not. Clearly one on our side, very proud to win.
Thank you very much for the debate, everyone. Very wonderful debate. You guys will get the results later in the award ceremony. So thank you very much. All the adjudicators head to Discord room 1. Thank you.